The Legend of Jimmy Spoon by Kristiana Gregory. Chapter 10, Learning to Hunt. Travel was slow. Jimmy rode alongside Old Mother, sometimes dropping back to be near Hanabi. He liked to look at Odo, the papoose on her back, who was as snug as a baby could be. Odo's wide brown eyes smiled when Jimmy made faces at her, reminding him of baby Lucy. That night they camped at the base of a canyon. As Jimmy watched the firelight inside the teepee, Old Mother revealed there was a surprise for him. Washaki reached behind his backrest. A small bow made of choke cherry wood came out first, then a narrow quiver made from stiff deer hide, adorned with colored porcupine quills. 6 long arrows with feathered ends were inside. Washaki walked around the circle, clockwise to where Jimmy sat, careful not to pass between the fire and the others. Jimmy couldn't believe it. His very own bow and arrows. For an instant he wanted to throw his arms around Washaki's neck and cling to him with gratitude. Instead he cast his eyes down to show respect. "Thank you," Jimmy said softly. Now he was like a real Indian. This was the best thing that could have happened to the Jimmy Spoon Club. To have a real bow and real arrows meant that his club was in good form. Maybe Jimmy would shoot a big bear, and then he could make a claw necklace for Nahani. Before sunrise, Washaki took Jimmy to watch the hunters run antelope. About 50 men on horseback circled the animals and took turns chasing them. Nampa and Gamu herded runaways. Finally, the antelope were so exhausted they hid their heads under a bush and lay in the dirt, resigned to their fate. Even though Jimmy felt sorry for the animals, he shot at them with his bow. Washaki showed him how to hook the arrow into the sinew string, then pull his elbow straight back. This was hard for Jimmy and took many tries. Finally, he killed an antelope. "Oh boy, did you see me?" Jimmy couldn't contain his excitement. In camp, Old Mother prepared a feast. "My little son is a hunter," she bragged to everyone. After several days of travel, Washaki's band camped where they could see Bajono and butterscotch-colored antelope grazing for miles in every direction. "You may now go as often as you like with Washaki while he hunts. Learn his ways," Old Mother said to Jimmy. Never before had he felt so lucky, especially when Washaki spoke to the hunters that night around the fire. "Dawi, my young brother, is a big hunter now, but his bow is for a child." An elder leaned forward into the warm light. His name was Mozo, which meant whisker. He wore a feather by his ear and a necklace of elk teeth. His braids were silvery gray. "I am old and my eyes are dim," Mozo said. "Your Dawi may have my best bow." It was a fine, strong bow, standing up to Jimmy's chin. Another elder gave him 8 arrows made from cherry wood. Jimmy was so proud he wanted to make a speech. "Next time, I'll kill a whole herd of Bajono," he boasted. "I know you will, Dawi," said Old Mother. Her blanket covered her shoulders, opening to calm hands in her lap. "But tell me, what will you do with all that meat?" Washaki nodded. He lifted a coal from the fire with a forked stick, then dropped it into the bowl of his pipe. It was a small pipe made from red stone. After a puff and several long moments, he spoke. "Dawi, you are just like the Taibo, who shoot all the Bajono they see, then leave them on the prairie for wolves and crows." Jimmy knew Taibo meant white people, men like his father and other settlers. He felt a blush of shame. "This is not our way. The Great Spirit would be unhappy with us. We would have bad luck, and we would go hungry if we killed animals we didn't need to." Jimmy watched Hanabi gather kindling near a fallen oak. She had a blanket slung over her shoulder to hold baby Odo, who was wrapped snugly inside with just the top of her fuzzy black hair showing. This reminded him of his mother. It seemed she always had an infant in one arm and a toddler grabbing her skirt while she performed a chore. Taibo women might think they had nothing in common with Indian women, but Jimmy could see that wasn't so. All mothers are busy, he decided. They are busy and they look tired. It also seemed to him that Shoshone men and boys had all the fun. He felt he could bring this to the chief's attention. "And most of the women carry a papoose on their backs all day," he complained. "I'm glad I'm not a girl. Don't you fellas ever carry firewood?" Washaki listened. The fall air was cool. He sat cross-legged against the sunny side of his lodge, a smile on his face. He was amused by his young brother. Women work hard, men work hard. If our dear old mother could bring down 10 Bajono in one son, I would carry water for her and sew moccasins. If mothers ride off to hunt or fight enemies, who will nurse their babies? Who will sing cradle songs? Jimmy was embarrassed. He had observed his new family, but he hadn't tried to understand them. How come you get to walk in front all the time and an hobby follows? My mother would burn my pa's ears if she always went second. Jimmy was remembering how the men in his town liked to tip their hats and say, "Ladies first." A new trail has high grass where snakes hide, and there are thorns. It is safer for the man to go first. When the snows are deep, the first walker makes the path easier for the ones behind. Washaki closed his eyes and lifted his face to the sun, enjoying its warmth. "Dawi," he finally said, "if I fill my arms with firewood as you suggest, and strap a cradle board over my shoulders, how will I put an arrow on an enemy who hides in the trees?" Jimmy didn't answer. "A boy who is patient learns much," he said. "An owl listening from his branch has more wisdom than a magpie who chatters all day long." And that is the end of chapter 10.